This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
Innovation and technology reshaping the Gulf Coast on this edition of inStudio. Technological disruption is causing the world to change at lightning speed, and there are opportunities as well as casualties. The options are quite simple: embrace or be left behind. Along the Gulf Coast, there is an effort to seize on the opportunities technology can bring to a community. On this edition of inStudio, we'll talk with some of the players who are looking to help blaze a trail towards the Gulf Coast becoming an innovation and technology hub. Dr. Eman El-Sheikh is director of the Center for Cybersecurity and a professor of computer science at the University of West Florida. She is also a visiting research scientist with the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition. In addition to cybersecurity, she is an expert in artificial intelligence and machine learning. David Musselwhite has spent decades working in the information technology industry. Up until 2015, he served as IT department director for Escambia County. These days, Musselwhite is running Pensacola Socialdesk, a startup geared toward fostering entrepreneurial pursuits and innovation along the Gulf Coast. Bob David has spent over 3.5 decades working in information technology, both in the private sector and the military. He is a retired naval officer and former president and COO of TechSoft, where he is still a shareholder and management consultant. He is also a founding member and on the board of Innovation Coast, a nonprofit with the mission of cultivating technological enterprises along the Gulf Coast. Aaron Ball is the CEO and founder of Ballpoint Global Network and co-founder and partner in the creative firm Embark Agency. His vast technology experience includes being part of a team that launched the Bible app YouVersion. His wide-ranging agency and consulting business teaches innovative organizations how to grow and thrive in the fast-paced world of media and branding. Ball's client list includes premier organizations from law, healthcare, and nonprofits. Welcome to you all. Thanks for being here.
Man, thanks for having us.
Looking forward to a great discussion about technology on the Gulf Coast. Dr. El-Sheikh, I'm going to begin with you. You're out at the University of West Florida. UWF, it seems to me, in recent times has put a big focus on technology along the Gulf Coast. What are you guys seeing?
We are very invested in trying to advance the community and help Pensacola and Northwest Florida really become the next leader in innovation and technology, and certainly across all the disciplines and academic programs and research that we do. Earlier this year, President Saunders launched the Innovation Network, where our goal is really to start building hubs across the Northwest Florida, starting with right here in Pensacola, downtown Pensacola, and build facilities that will bring together students, bring together faculty, bring together community and industry partners and leaders to solve real-world problems, to be able to innovate and bring the technological advancement into our classrooms while advancing the knowledge, while supporting the community. So it's certainly very exciting, the various initiatives that are happening at the university.
Aaron, you work with a lot of businesses.
Sure.
What are these businesses, your clients, what are they seeing about Pensacola now that's different than, say, 10 or 15 years ago?
Well, it's interesting. I'm a transplant to Pensacola. I'm one of the, few that I came here in 2010. I didn't know a soul, and somehow I end up at a table with you with such incredible panel. I find that Pensacola, for those who really appreciate it, draws entrepreneurial energy. It's just the right size to be heard if you have great ideas and great kind of expertise. Young talent has a kind of opportunity to thrive because there's the education component, there's incubators that are kind of really starting and evolving, and then there's capital, and there's really surprisingly influential people that are here. So I don't know, when I started early on in 2010, I just got lucky in meeting some of those very influential people, whether it's Fred Levin or Dr. Sunil Gupta, Carol Carlin, the folks that are doing some really innovative things. I would just say that the openness to invest and the openness to hear and listen to young entrepreneurial talent with a track record is a hallmark of Pensacola, and you see it happening all the time. You see organizations really investing in not only recruitment, but support of initiatives that bring good ideas. Quint Studers has his luncheon roundtables, and he's constantly listening and providing feedback. That's infrastructure that I don't know whether or not it's around in small cities like other than Pensacola. That's why it's really attractive to be here to me.
You've been here for a long time, David, and definitely something has changed. An attitude has changed, don't you think?
Definitely, and I've been here since 1997, and when I first got here, downtown literally was just like tumbleweeds blowing down the streets. And there was people coming, wow, you work downtown? And it's kind of been an overnight miracle that's taken like 10 years to manifest. And it's with everything that UWF is doing, that IHMC is doing. Bob has his company pretty much downtown. Yeah. A lot of things like that have changed. And we are looking around from Socialdesk at the whole region, and we are thinking that not only Pensacola, but actually the Gulf Coast region is on the cusp of really kind of turning the corner on growing entrepreneurs and more innovative companies. Yeah.
Interesting. Bob, what do you see?
I've got to agree with David. Moved down to Pensacola proper downtown in 1994. We moved from the area out here by the University of West Florida. And David was right. The streets would roll up at night. 5 o'clock when we closed the office, there was nothing going on downtown. So we've seen a lot of economic growth in the downtown area. Entrepreneurship has grown tremendously. Part of that is from homegrown companies that have started here in the local area. And it's also from people that have moved back to this area that originally grew up in Pensacola, moved off to Atlanta, to Dallas, to Los Angeles, and are now bringing their families and their companies back to the Gulf Coast region to continue to grow their companies. We have a forward-thinking community, a lot of entrepreneurial people. The funding, like Aaron says, is becoming more and more readily available to the new companies that are here to continue to grow. And through Innovation Coast, we're trying to coordinate, all of the knowledge and technology-based companies to leverage that and to make Pensacola a better place.
Talk a little bit about Innovation Coast. Explain exactly what it is.
Innovation Coast was formed about 7 or 8 years ago by a group of C-suite level executives in the knowledge and technology businesses. We saw a need to collaborate on business growth, the ability to sponsor and mentor young and upcoming companies, and to help each other to recruit talent to the Gulf Coast. We all need employees, and through collaboration and through knowledge sharing, we've been able to grow all of our companies together. Now there may be competition between our companies, but there's also collaboration and working together.
And as the university in town, we've certainly been thrilled to get involved with Innovation Coast and really kind of help support that talent build up, and also kind of help students, potential students as well as current students, see all the opportunities and the growth and the evolution that is being discussed right here in terms of how much Pensacola has really evolved into a tech hub and a center for innovation. And so we've been thrilled to kind of have that partnership with Innovation Coast and help.
One of our passions as an organization is to look at workforce development. So we work closely with the University of West Florida, Pensacola State College, the Escambia County School District, the career academies, to promote building our workforce that's going to meet the needs of the local community, going to meet the needs of the local organizations, and provide high-paying jobs, skilled jobs, and grow our economy.
Are you seeing students from outside of our area, in other words, outside of, say, driving distance to the University of West Florida? Are you seeing more and more students outside of our area, as well as outside the state of Florida, look at UWF because of some of the technological curriculum?
Absolutely. I think certainly in such a digitally connected global world, the word is getting out about all the things that are happening right here in Pensacola at the university, and as we talk about in cybersecurity, the Cyber Coast. We're building the Cyber Coast, and we're seeing students from South Florida, from other states, even teachers come to us and say, we'd like to partner with you, or we're considering your program. We had a few teachers from South Florida ask if they could attend our summer camps and kind of learn about how what we're doing with K through 12 and expand into their areas as well. I think one of the best things has been working with the community to see the excitement and the collaborative spirit among the community and kind of building that innovation network. So as we've embarked in trying to identify how can we solve real world problems, how can we solve problems that'll help advance our community, it's just been phenomenal to see the community support from the businesses that are in town, from the entrepreneurs, from the government, from the military and defense, in terms of everybody really coming together to say, we are going to make this special. We are going to make our community better together. And I think that's something that I feel is so special to Pensacola. I haven't seen that anywhere else.
More. I mean, I think I'm kind of an old soul, I guess, and I like to pick up the phone and just talk to people. And that's what's special about Pensacola. And to your point, I really think we are at this kind of deflection point, because there is a group of people that know each other's skill sets. It's relatively small community that can pick up the phone and talk to each other and make things happen. You guys teaming up with Innovation Coast, it is such a bright spot in this community, what Innovation Coast has done, and UWF's support of technology through that, and then how it trickles down to STEM programs like the National Flight Academy, and how one of my clients that is just such an innovative thing. We're investing in these kids at a young age, but they're going to come back, and their parents suddenly think Pensacola is an innovation technology, super hub. Oh, and by the way, there's a beautiful white sand beach. Right?
And I think something that sort of gets overlooked as well is we were, for a market this size, we were a pretty thriving arts community as well. And I think that's something that makes things attractive. Great discussion going on about what's happening along the Gulf Coast as far as innovation and technology is concerned. We'll continue our discussion in just a couple of moments with a whole lot more to come. Hope you'll continue to hang out with us. You're watching inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS, Gulf Coast. Welcome back to this edition of inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast. Our topic, innovation and technology and the role they are playing in reshaping the Gulf Coast. Our guests, Dr. Eman El-Sheikh, David Musselwhite, Aaron Ball, and Bob David. David, tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing with Pensacola Socialdesk. What is it? How does it work?
Well, Pensacola Socialdesk is a fairly new startup. We've been open about a year. Essentially, we are a co-working space in the Midtown Pensacola area, but we also are focused really on kind of being not just the co-working, but a private sector incubator. And we've developed some processes. One of them we call the Ideas to Profits, because we've seen a lot of people out there with ideas, but they don't know how to take the idea and move it to a company. So we work a lot in that area, as well as we advocate and work on a lot of other projects. both to help transform down the Midtown area into what we hope will become an innovation district. While we love what's happening downtown, I think there was a story by that Colonel or General Chappie James said whenever he'd interview some of his officers, he'd always say, okay, that's great, but what's next? And when we ask that question, we're kind of going, okay, downtown is wonderful, but what's next? Where can downtown, the growth of downtown move to? And, you know, when we look at places like Asheville, I went up there, the amazing thing was it was a downtown that was rejuvenated, but it went all over Asheville. And we're hoping to bring that into the Midtown area, you know. So, and the other thing is that we have an application in, and we'll see how Triumph thinks of it, to put in a fiber optic network over 8 counties of the Gulf Coast. It's got fiber linking all 8 counties. It's a kind of a bold initiative to do a middle mile, but part of that idea is to be able to take the ideas of an innovation coast in Pensacola and have an innovation, or not an innovation, a district. Have an innovation district in Panama City, have an innovation district in Franklin County or Gulf County. And then to be able to link them with high-speed fiber so that businesses would have the option to locate in multiple counties, be able to tap into different labor pools, and be able to, from district to district, have the performance of a local area network in the office. So we've kind of got our hands in quite a few little pies.
Interesting. And when you mentioned Triumph, and what you're talking about is Triumph Gulf Coast, which has to do with the BP oil spill money, which probably most people are familiar with, and how that's going to be allocated in the coming months and years ahead. And speaking of that, I mean, just let me throw that up. What potential do you think that big bucket of money can have on Northwest Florida?
A variety of potentials, whether it's technology and knowledge-based companies, manufacturing, infrastructure, as David was talking about. You know, money of that magnitude can be life-changing to the Gulf Coast.
And certainly, I think we have to look at it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really do something transformational for our community. How can we continue to build on these great initiatives, and how can we take it to the next level? UWF has submitted a proposal to build the innovation network that I mentioned earlier as part of the Triumph request, where really the goal would be to bring together kind of the up-and-coming areas, so certainly cybersecurity, intelligent systems, robotics, advanced manufacturing, and work with the strong partners in the community to really kind of say, let's build a platform right here for innovation, for advancement in technology, and let's use that to really become national and global leaders in those areas. So certainly build on our strengths. I think it's going to be very exciting to see what Pensacola looks like in the next 10 years, given all those opportunities.
California's got their Silicon Valley, and North Carolina's got the Research Triangle. I think the Gulf Coast is poised to be a next technology center.
And I think one kind of tangible thing, before any Triumph money has been spent, what it has done is it has kind of invigorated Florida's Great Northwest, and to fund and to spearhead the development of a plan called Northwest Florida Forward, which has a number of elements. And one of those elements is entrepreneurship and innovation. And they've got a plan, and there are people that are meeting from all parts of the region every month, or every month, 6 weeks, to basically say, how can we push this forward? So Triumph, before a dime of Triumph money has been spent, I think we're already seeing the benefit by the region beginning to work together.
I hear that all the time. The biggest opportunity that I see is the growth potential. You know, technology and innovation, it's all about growth in jobs. And we have this great mass of unskilled and needing education community that is available to learn and grow in this economy. And if we can provide them, this is what my entrepreneurial buddies and folks that I hang out with talk about all the time, is how do we work together to provide this great labor force that's just, it's there looking for opportunity. And we often sit in our like ivory towers with all of our big, VE cap, funds and say, how do we drop some, major money on this project or this? It's about jobs.
It is.
It's about being upwardly mobile and helping people in our community. And Pensacola is poised perfectly because we have very highly qualified thought leaders, the capital, and we also have what I see as skilled workers that have a lot of opportunity to advance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And Dr. El-Sheikh, talk a little bit, because you and I have had a conversation offline about this before. You don't necessarily have to have a 4-year college degree to be successful and have a great job in technology, right?
Absolutely, especially I think that's kind of an example of what we're trying to do in terms of innovative solutions to problems right here on the Gulf Coast. Is you look at within cybersecurity, we have over 1,300 great cybersecurity jobs in Northwest Florida open at this time.
Okay, let me stop you right there. 1,300 open jobs in the cybersecurity field as we speak right here in January of 2018. 300,000,
almost 300,000 across the country, and a global deficit of over 2 million projected in the next few years. And so what we've done is kind of looked at that as an opportunity to say, how can we build an innovative model if we're talking about a field that's dynamically evolving every day, the threats keep increasing in intensity and complexity, and we tell the average student, you really need to wait till you get 4 years in college, maybe another certification or a graduate degree, and then you'll be ready. We'll never catch up. Right? And so what we've done is really kind of looked at how can we build alternative models, how can we build innovative pathways with partners and build programs such as our Cybersecurity for All program, where we can look at specific work roles, we can look at within the job kind of categories within cybersecurity and technology, and be able to look at what's needed and what are the gaps that people have and how can we help fill those gaps so that then we can get people into those jobs as rapidly as possible, but also facilitate pathways towards degree completion or degree advancement or professional development for those that are interested. And certainly this is something that we've been working closely to do here, as really just how can we show that Pensacola is forward thinking? How can we show that our community is really on the cutting edge of innovation, but being able to take that model at the national level. So we work very closely with the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security. We're designated as a National Center of Academic Excellence in cyber defense education.
Which is a big deal, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
For Pensacola. Pause, take a breath.
Not only that, but a regional organization as well.
That is extraordinary.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been really just a great, I think, honor to see kind of that come out of what we're doing, but also huge responsibility, because the fact that, like you said, we got that designation, it's about 5% of institutions have that designation, so it was a pretty big deal. And then the year after, for them to select us as the cybersecurity hub for the Southeast U.S. was just, levels above in terms of responsibility. But I always look at that as an opportunity to take all the things we're doing in collaboration with the community and the industry partners that are here and the entrepreneurs and Innovation Coast, and really say, look at these great programs. These can be best practice models for meeting that workforce deficit, not just here locally, the 1,300 jobs, but across the nation. And I love the fact that everybody's so willing to collaborate and kind of work together as a community to make it happen. We recently hosted the Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary for Cybersecurity and Communications, Jeanette Manfra, and we talked to her about everything we're doing, not just at UWF, but within the community here. And she said, we've never seen anything like Pensacola in the way that the community has come together to really advance the cause. And I think that it just keeps sparking, as you mentioned earlier, more of that energy and passion into really making a difference by building off of that momentum and energy to make it happen right here along the Gulf Coast.
It's special. It's real special what's happening, and it really comes down to actual lives, like students having better opportunity, getting out of school, wanting to stay here and spend that money.
Pushing that education down to the K through 12 range
Right.
to understand what the future is and opportunities are here, not only with the education at a higher level, but certifications and training and real skills that they can get a job with.
Yeah, that's a great point. Are we doing a decent job of getting that message down to K through 12?
I think we are. I work closely with the Escambia County School District, work with their career academies in cyber and in IT and other technology-based skill sets, and I think there's a real passion to make that happen.
Because a lot of people might say, you know what, going 4 more years of school is not my cup of tea. It's not what I want to do. And I think back many years ago, not just in Pensacola, but around the nation, when we certainly had a very robust manufacturing industry, and people could get out of high school, go to work for a manufacturer, go to work for a chemical company, whatever, and they could have a middle class, if not upper middle class lifestyle. That's more of a challenge today. Would you all agree?
A little bit. And there's another group, a lady that grew up in Pensacola named Vicki Patterson, that is working hard. She works for IBM in a supercomputer division as a program manager, I believe. But she is from Pensacola, and she is passionate about bringing back to Pensacola a little startup skills development company. I think it's called Invictus, because she sees that exact same thing, that there's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, didn't get into a college track, but they have the aptitude and everything, and with their just a year or so of skills training, they can get well-paying jobs in some of the cybersecurity and information security fields. So she's a good example of someone that grew up in Pensacola, went away, made a lot of her money, and is bringing that back to Pensacola to help to kind of feed back into it. So it's I think that is one example of what is happening. Back to your first question.
It's when it sounds like we need to lower the access point to begin the journey of being all involved in, using technology and in technology, cybersecurity type professions, right? I mean, I see Innovation Coast and other organizations, engaging youth in high school as a recruiting tool to UWF and Pensacola State College.
Or directly into our businesses.
Directly, right. Why lose them to Silicon Valley is my
Why
question.
lose them to Silicon Valley? We'll bring them in, we'll train them, we'll provide the work experience for them, help them get advanced education if they need that, certifications, keep them here in the community, and give them high-paying jobs.
So I think that starts with more awareness, even before the high school level, even the elementary school. I mean, you think about how they're growing up in a technologically advanced world compared to, I'll give away my age, when we were growing up, right? And it's a very different world. I mean, they're exposed to not just technology, but they're exposed to threats, security, threats, privacy issues as well. And I think the more we can kind of bring that awareness and kind of change the culture where it's more about, let's figure out how to be good digital citizens. What does that mean? How to be safe? What does cyber hygiene mean? What does technologically,
You can teach cyber hygiene to my 9-year-old daughter. She needs that. I don't know what. Just looking at that iPad all the time. Cyber hygiene, I like that.
I like that. We'll have to talk more about that when we come back in just a couple of months. Because I do want you to maybe quickly address when we come back about some of the things that people should do in their everyday lives to make sure that they're safe and secure with their technological endeavors. You're watching inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast. We're coming back in just a few moments. Hope you'll stay with us. Welcome back. This is inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast. We're discussing innovation and technology and the role they are playing in reshaping the Gulf Coast. We were talking as we went to break a couple of minutes ago, or actually as we were in break off camera or something, just about the velocity of change that is occurring. Do you think there's ever been a time in American history where things have changed so quickly?
I don't think so. Saw a video out of a professor from Stanford. He was talking about the level of disruption in transportation and in energy with the advances in batteries, the advances in sensors, and how the cost of sensors have just plummeted. And a lot of people talk about electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. And he made a credible case that at least from an economic standpoint, we are going to be at the point that autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles make more economic sense than internal combustion.
I've heard the same.
In maybe 3 years.
3 years?
3 years?
Well, companies like Volvo are going to their next evolution of cars will be all solar powered or electrical powered. No more internal combustion.
So it's massive that, and it's fascinating to watch. And I think, from UWF, you've got a smart series of lectures that's coming up. And we talk a lot about programming and things, but equally important to the innovation is the chemist and the physics that make the products, that make the materials for an iPhone, that make the materials for batteries.
Solar panels.
Solar panels.
Yeah. I'm going to throw one more in there: design, creativity, the creative folks.
Amen.
You talk about it's been discussed many times before. This little rascal here, this iPhone. The technology in it may or may not be better than some of its competitors, but it has a certain amount of appeal to people because of the design. And I believe Steve Jobs, along the way, and many times had credited Johnny Ives, who was the designer on many of Apple's products, and making them very, what's the word I'm looking for? Appetizing to the consumer out there.
We have a tremendous, thriving, creative, and tech sector in Pensacola. It might be small. It's no Austin, Texas, or somewhere else, but it is investable. And if I can talk to folks like you that have the money and have the resources and have the chops to make things change in the education sector, I would just say, bring them together. Do whatever it takes. Buy us all a sandwich and throw us in a room. I was sitting at the donation party for Tanglewood, Fred Levin's estate that he just donated to UWF, and I was had a fascinating conversation with your director of your business school, and it was so impressive because he was talking about like, well, can we leverage spaces around town? And we talked about Tanglewood and how UWF could potentially use it to bring entrepreneurial talent and business leaders to audit, fantastic courses and hear the latest innovation from some, brilliant minds and some students that stand out. I just think conversations like that,
Yeah.
you bring people together and have conversations, Jeff, that are important to this community. And I think it's special. I really do.
Well, I think too that one of the things that I hear constantly from young people is, I want to talk to someone who has experience. I want to talk to someone who understands, various parts of business. A lot of young people, they know the technological ins and outs, but they may not understand, how to go out and get capital, or how to deal with things.
Screw in a light bulb.
Yeah.
We have problems.
But you know what I'm saying. So I think they're looking for mentors. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You
We
know?
have a program here in Pensacola called the Young Entrepreneurs Group that has done that in the past, taken our K through 12 students, mostly in the junior and senior high school level, and put them through entrepreneurial evolutions of building a business, building business plans, coming up with a product, talking to investors. We've had investment groups that have actually invested in their group, and it's a year-long project throughout the school year. And at the end of the year, they have a competition to see who wins the competition, who's created the business. So, David and I have been involved in that in the past, and it's an innovative way to get young people thinking about how to form businesses and get the skill sets to do it.
Yeah.
What makes a great entrepreneur?
Vision, determination. Not having the fear of failure. We have to fail before we can succeed. If you don't feel, if you don't experience failure, how do you know if you've succeeded?
I ask you the same question, Aaron. You're a young guy. You're an entrepreneur. You've started several businesses. What's the key? What makes you good at it?
Well, I don't know if I'm good at it.
You're pretty good at
it. But I have certainly been blessed to be around people who are very good at it. And I think getting failure out of your system pretty early on, knowing that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and adopting an openness, an open mindset of teachability and being willing to be instructed, I think is such a critical piece to iterate through various versions of whether it's an app you're building or a incubator or startup you're building or a product. I certainly think that being willing to hear feedback and receive it very quickly in real time is what has led to my success for sure.
You want to add to that, David?
I'd say with that, I particularly like the idea that you've got to be, you can't be afraid of failing. And the environment has to have, like if you're an entrepreneur in any business, it's that failure is not fatal. And you've got to have kind of the humbleness to actually learn from your failures. But I'd also say one of the keys to helping, and it's been borne out in places like Boulder, Colorado, that a kind of an entrepreneurship ecosystem that is defined, that is accessible, that is inclusive, is also very critical to helping entrepreneurs and startups. And in Pensacola, we've gotten the beginnings of a process going.
What are the core aspects of what they have in Boulder that we could do in Pensacola?
Well, I think number one, focusing and being on the kind of the ecosystem and getting a lot more people involved, making it more inclusive of people. The ideas of, what am I thinking of here? I'd say,
I think the social media pieces too, bringing people together online and also physically.
And I think
the
that's
CoLab
exactly
here in Pensacola, which
Right.
is run by Florida West Economic Development Group, is an entrepreneurial startup. tank. We got offices there. We've got people like Iris, who's been tremendously successful here.
And I think they're graduating pretty soon now.
Graduating. We have one-person companies in there. We have 10-people companies in this think tank of an organization that we as an organization, Innovation Coast, provide mentorship to help them grow. Innovation Coast has done business plan competitions over the last couple of years to help grow entrepreneurial spirit here in the local area.
And going, back to that, one thing that, Kelly over at CoLab and Karen at Co-Organics and that we're participating in is wanting to look at, can we form like what is called a Kaufman's 1 million cups process. And that's basically a thing that across the world, every Wednesday, lots of people from different communities gather together to hear a very brief pitch and to kind of interact with that entrepreneur.
I'd like that.
So,
especially if there's lunch involved. I'm very food oriented.
Okay. Did you want to add to the discussion on entrepreneurship?
I think it's interesting that we're talking about innovation and technology, and I think what struck me kind of listening to the conversation was that innovation really requires that diversity of perspective and that diversity of thought. And so we were talking about how it's important to connect, whether it's students from different disciplines, like you were saying, the sciences and the arts, or whether it's the entrepreneurs with the educators, or just different facets together. And that's what's really going to drive the innovation, right, is having these kind of multidisciplinary conversations, multi-perspective conversations. And you think about how much technology more recently, like you said, with the scale of velocity, has helped us accomplish those connections, that's why I think the future is only going to be even more incredible, because now we're at a point where you're connecting with peers in the community, but you're also bringing in experts around the world to be part of that, and you're connecting, from our perspective, students to those real world problems and to those experts that they can learn from. They might have come out strong with the technical skills, but then they need to connect with the business or the entrepreneurs to really learn that aspect. And so I think it's the technology that's really going to continue driving the connections and the collaborations to facilitate that innovation.
You talk about connections, and can I make a point about that?
Please.
It's just apparent to me, hearing you guys talk, opportunity is here, and it's exciting. But there's a barrier getting it, education about what's available and how to get involved to the ground level user. It's chronic, it's a problem, and everybody has a phone. The question I have is, how do we get, and this is what I want organizations to really think about, how do you engage folks that, like me, like other really, tech-savvy, social media-savvy entrepreneur leaders, to say, okay, you've got the message. Here's how we get it to Instagram. Here's how we get it to Facebook Live, where the people are. It's like we've built all this opportunity off the highway, and we've got to put it on the highway where people are. And I would say the biggest breakdown is that there's a deafness to the fact that we can be on TV, we can put it on our internal intraweb, and we can put it in a printed newsletter, but that's not where the talent is in their early 20s.
There are ideas out there that haven't been thought yet.
Right.
If we can get it out to those people that have the thought processes, the blank minds, the open slates, and get them to contribute, we can accelerate that technology advancement and social advancement even quicker.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, going back to the point of entrepreneurship, and I'm not being down, but a fellow named Bob Bennett posted a very kind of up-and-coming blog called Panhandle Progress. And in it, he just posted this week an article on where have the entrepreneurs gone. And he has said that along the Gulf Coast, since the mid-'70s, we've actually been declining in entrepreneurs. That, like in 1977, I think he said, there was like 17.5% of the businesses were entrepreneurs. We're down now to basically about 6%. So, the question really is not only how do you succeed, but how do we as a community begin to work together to create the environment where we can create more entrepreneurs, more startup businesses.
Right.
You know, because there was a book that Dr. Harper distributed to the Triumph Board, The New Geography of Jobs. And in it, the author talks about that America is really becoming three Americas. The America that is embracing innovation. You know, those are clearly the Atlantas, the Austins, the Bostons, you know, all of that. And then there's the other side that are some of the older manufacturing areas that are kind of withering. And then there's the big middle. And Pensacola and the Gulf Coast seem to be in that middle. And we have an opportunity, especially with Triumph funding, to kind of make that transition over to the innovation side, you know, because we can't stay in the middle, you know, for very long.
Well, what was somebody had a line one time? The only thing you find in the middle of the road is yellow lines and dead armadillos. So that's had to pull that up. Anyway, with that piece of great wisdom, we will go to break. We'll continue our discussion in just a couple of moments. Hope you'll stay with us. This is inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast.
When you are with WSRE and PBS, you know there's always something amazing coming up next. It's a special commitment to sharing the world and our community. It is an irreplaceable service in communities all across America. The fact is, television that has the power to share the world also has real costs. These costs are largely funded by people like you and me, stepping up generously to make sure WSRE continues to thrive. So please stand up now for your cherished values of curiosity, openness, and excellence with your vital donation to WSRE. Give now to make sure that the best in news, culture, science, history, drama, and children's educational programs stay strong right where they belong, right here on WSRE. Thank you.
You're watching inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast. We are discussing the opportunities that the fast-growing world of technology is bringing to the Gulf Coast. Our guests, Bob David, Aaron Ball, Dr. Eman El-Sheikh, and David Musselwhite. Dr. El-Sheikh, let me go back to you of something we were talking about earlier with security and things that people should be aware of. This is a little bit off topic, but I think you're an expert in this area, so talk to me a little bit about this. What should the average person do to make sure that their technological endeavors are secure?
I think there's certainly a lot, but it all starts with just being more aware, right? Being more aware, just kind of we're aware of our surroundings. Be aware of your digital surroundings, right? When you think about the number of breaches that we've had due to, like, you look at the Internet of Things and security for IoT and devices that are all connected, and many people will just plug it in, not check their settings, leave it on default. And was it last year we had a major kind of meltdown of due to one of the providers due to baby monitors, right? I mean, it was they were getting it through wireless and IoT connected baby monitors. So you think about, there's so many things that people in the consumer market, what drives the consumer market isn't necessarily the security aspects, right? It's all back to our own individual responsibility, and being, just as we were talking about earlier, more cyber aware and cyber hygiene, right? I think for me, we always talk about just building that culture from the beginning. You know, you think about the youth and our kids, how much they have access to, you know, certainly the schools provide Chromebooks for them to use. They've got access to devices at home, and, you know, just starting with that culture of this is a great opportunity, but it's also a responsibility, right? It's a responsibility to protect yourself, protect your identity, protect your information, but also look at that as a access point, right, to other things, right? It could be through your access point, they're getting in, the hackers are getting into other more sensitive data. So I think it starts with just being cyber aware citizens and kind of trying to build that culture from the ground up. I think at this point, really, with the rapid speed we're seeing in technology and advancement, we really need to just start from the beginning, right? So just like in schools, they do safety drills and fire drills, they should be doing cyber drills, right? They should be doing, just like at home, you know, we check our monitors and our, you know, fire alarms and things like that. We should be check your devices at home, check your settings, check to see what access has anything been, and certainly by all means back up, back up regularly.
And every parent that, like me, like I have a 9-year-old, should have the access passwords to everything their child has, right? I never get to pick the brain of a doctor in tech like that. How much screen time should my daughter be getting at 9 years old? Right?
It continues to change, but I think that's, you know, it brings up a great point, because one of the things that we found, back to, you were talking about bringing it to the people, right? Bringing the technology and the advancement to the people is one of the things we're doing at UWF. Is we recently picked our brightest and most passionate students and launched the Cybersecurity Ambassadors program, where their role will be to go to the schools and go to the community events and really just talk about the things that they're already doing, that people are already doing, rather than talk about cyber careers. And start with, maybe, let's look at your video game system. Why don't we connect and see what hacks you can get in through your video game? Oh, you use Instagram or Snapchat on your phone? Well, let's look at the vulnerabilities or what that could potentially handle. And that's a way of, like what you're talking about, relating it, help people relate to, oh, this is something I do need to be cautious about. And then from there, maybe you can jump forward into, well, did you know there are jobs? Did you know there are jobs right here in the area? Did you know that this is one of the fastest moving careers? So we're really hoping that that'll help kind of raise more community awareness and interest and build that culture from the ground up.
Aaron, I want to ask you, because this is huge. If you own a business, so you're in the branding business, and if you own a business, the way I get the word out about my business today is completely different than it was even 5 years ago, right?
Revolutionized, yeah.
So what are just a couple of key things that I need to focus on?
Well, it's interesting because I get calls all the time from business leaders, and so much of it is the exact same, you know. My reviews online, you know, somebody gave me a 1-star review, you know, how do I get it off my page, right? On Google Plus or Yelp or something like that. And what most people don't realize is, quite frankly, Google, 1/5 of their algorithm now that they rank, you know, successful organizations has to do with your social footprint, what other people say about you, your engagement. So there's tools out there that help monitor and curate really good positive reviews that I put folks in touch with. But I would say, to your point, the biggest thing you've got to look at is how to create relational messaging. You know, there's people that are being pulled in 1,000 directions by messages. I don't even remember the statistic, but it's thousands of tugs on you constantly throughout the day, whether or not it's a notification on your phone or a billboard flashing you. There you get it, right there.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I thought I had it all.
Somebody post notification of a YouTube post. I would say make it relational, make it live. You see a tremendous shift toward live programming on YouTube and Facebook. The algorithms literally completely changed this month with Facebook, where businesses that once thought they had you know, a great strategy for putting out content and publishing that content on the superhighway of social media, Facebook and Instagram, now are seeing their engagement through the floor, because Facebook is now only promoting relationships like your daughter, your cousin, your friends and family, close nuclear. So the live, going very hard after eyeballs on, you know, a live church service or a live Q&A with your best clients and colleagues, interviews that are published ahead of time that allow you know, your constituents to peek in and see you interviewing one of your best employees about what they're most excited about the innovation that is happening at you know, your school or your place of work. That's the kind of stuff, real content, not fabricated
Nonsense.
drummed up nonsense.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. We're getting short on time here. I think we have about 3 minutes left. I want to ask you, just kind of go around the table and ask each one of you to kind of tell me what are you most excited about? And I'll begin with you, David.
What I'm most excited about is really the prospect of helping the entire Gulf Coast really engage with entrepreneurship and innovation and to grow that. Starting in Pensacola, which is where we are, and building the networks, building the infrastructure, building the environment that allows more business clusters and industry clusters to kind of emerge.
And if someone wants to get in touch with you about Pensacola Socialdesk, the best way to do so
is socialdesk.us, our website.
Socialdesk.us. Aaron, what are you fired up about?
Well, I'm fired up about being on your show.
Well, thank
you for hosting us. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much.
You're welcome.
I certainly have a deep passion for education and just giving people new experiences around topics they might not know or fully understand. So we have a series of webinars upcoming 3 months that are published on our website, whether it's client reviews or how to hack your social media and make it better, great graphics and telling your story through video. It's really key to surround yourself with some new ideas potentially and see how that might help you.
Best place to find you?
Ballpointglobal.com.
Ballpointglobal.com. Bob?
Innovation of our workforce. I think that by collaborating all of our local organizations together, we can increase the ability for our local people to find good paying jobs, increase their status within the communities, provide for their children. So that's my mission in life right now is to promote entrepreneurship.
And your involvement with Innovation Coast, and if people want to find out more about that.
InnovationCoast.com.
InnovationCoast.com. Dr. El-Sheikh?
I think I'm certainly very, very excited about building the Cyber Coast in partnership with the community, and certainly making that a best practice platform for advancing innovation, for advancing cybersecurity education, and for really inspiring more to get on board, starting with the youth in terms of problem solving. So I think we talk about we want Pensacola to become known for cybersecurity, for the Cyber Coast, and by the way, we've got great beaches.
Right.
Yeah, we do. Got a lot going for us.
And uwf.edu/cybersecurity for more information.
Thank you all. Great conversation, great discussion. Appreciate it so very much. I wish you all the very best of luck. Hope you have a great 2018. Thank you so very much for watching. We've been discussing technology and innovation along the Gulf Coast and the changes as well as the opportunities that they are bringing to our community. Our guests have been Dr. Eman El-Sheikh, the Director of Cybersecurity at the University of West Florida, Aaron Ball, the CEO and founder of Ballpoint Global Network, David Musselwhite with Pensacola Socialdesk, and Bob David with TechSoft and also Innovation Coast. This program, by the way, will be available online at WSRE.org. We'll also be flying around YouTube and Facebook and all those kind of fun places as well. Please feel free to share. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. I wish you all the very best. Take wonderful care of yourself. We'll see you soon.